Indie games are getting better and better. In the past, 3D indies often felt lesser than their AAA and AA brothers, mostly because of really like graphics, and just the games had to be a much smaller in scope. But ever since the Hat in Time's release, I feel like this has changed. Many indies are matching the quality and polish of their higher budget brothers. My only issue has been the rise of the roguelikes and the roguelites. I feel like everybody has their take on these two genres, and very little are doing much to differentiate themselves. Now, I think HASTE does differentiate itself by changing up how things are done a little bit, and it applies this to the endless runner genre extremely well. I actually stream the game here on the channel. Make sure you subscribe, hit notification bell, and hit the like button. We're trying to hit 500 subs soon. Thank you. But in thinking about HASTE, you realize HASTE is a game about movement, velocity, and placement. The movement being the player's ability to bob and weave through obstacles, as well as being able to properly place themselves in the optimal position. This is done by moving the left analog stick. It's pretty self-explanatory. But velocity, in that the player understands how to maintain not only speed but the direction of said speed, and placement, in that the player needs to hit the proper angles for the optimal boost in speed. This is done by actually falling and hitting slopes and ramping off of slopes. The combination of these two things steadily increase speed as you go through your levels, with a combination of a myriad of abilities. This fundamental balance is what makes HASTE unique. Instead of gameplay being built around an approach to level design, it's built around movement first and foremost. Now, why is this important? It affects the level layout. HASTE's approach to level design is not really something I've ever seen before. It does have hallmarks of the endless runner genre, while combining some things from like the action platformer genre, but it's very unique. It also makes maintaining and increasing velocity extremely satisfying, because you just continue to get faster and faster, and with a lot more stat boost items, that gets incredibly insane. And it also increases the stakes the better the player is doing, because the higher you go, the harder you fall. And then in general, the game's take on the endless runner genre is really open-ended, and I appreciate that, rather than it being lane-based. It allows for a more flexible and unique level design through the seeds and RNG. Now, this sounds bad, but it actually works incredibly well. My only problem is that sometimes, especially in the harder levels, ranking and stage design can be a little bit nonsensical. But these are at the extremes rather than the norm. It also allows for more types of challenges. These challenges force the player to learn not only the gameplay mechanics, but also how the various items they collect along the way will affect their gameplay. And despite the game lacking boss variety, since there's basically only 3 types of, or 3 of the same boss with varying difficulty, they are fun and often make the experience more intense, especially the further you get into the game. And then when you combine this with roguelite gameplay that keeps most sessions fresh, it's kind of insane. The roguelite gameplay keeps most sessions fresh, but it somewhat hurts the endless mode. Players come across power-ups and equipment less often in endless, so it adds a bit of frustration. But in the shards, it's really awesome. Every run is functionally different, while your base stats continue to improve just like any other roguelite. But because there are functionally no enemies, it really changes how you look at upgrades and kind of almost streamlines builds. You're getting towards the common goal of being able to basically automatically regenerate, HP, gain energy and gain speed, whether that speed is gained through your, special movement items or through boosts that boost your base speed. All those things kind of combine to make a general build that's best for all gameplay types. But because it's a roguelite and your items allow you to achieve this in different ways, every run, no matter if you're trying to get to that build, feels so much different, because your playstyle has to adapt to what items you get. Maybe you have to focus on getting sparks. Maybe you have to focus on keeping your feet on the ground. Maybe you have to focus on getting perfect landings all the time. Maybe you're able to blitz through different obstacles. Maybe it's best for you to actually try to get almost hit by things. That is how the game functions, and I think it's actually pretty awesome and high thrills. And then on top of all this, movement is functionally simple, but one thing that sets the game apart, and that's this falling mechanic. On top of this, there's no jump, so there's impetus to focus on maintaining velocity and using the fall to set up perfect angles, and it creates an interesting dynamic in how you aim Zoe, the protagonist, to hit the optimal angles for increasing speed. Then when you take this awesome gameplay and combine it with the presentation, you really have a good time, because HASTE has great presentation. The graphics and art style are great. The art style is like a mix between Hades, JoJo, and something like the Owl House. It's kind of weird, but it's also really cool and eye-catching. It's both unique and easy on the eyes. Character portraits pop and every character looks unique. On top of that, the environments, while sparing, all look nice while also being a little bit frantic. Graphically, the game is also pretty well put together, but it is mostly carried by art style rather than fidelity. It still kind of has that indie look sometimes, especially in menus. I played the game at 1440p, 100 Hz, and the game looked excellent. Nothing looked out of place or garish. The music in the game is also really solid. The soundtrack is pretty varied. A lot of the game's soundtrack is EDM, with much of it being like breakcore adjacent. And I think this works in a game that emphasizes speed and chaotic level design above all else. The stuff found in the hub world though and the rest of the game is kind of less unique and falls more into that standard video game fare that you'd hear in games from like the late 90s, early 2000s. Not that it's not good, it's just a little bit more generic than the stuff you hear in the actual levels, which you'll hear most of the time. Really, the only thing I haven't enjoyed about this game so far is the story, and it's because it's a bit hard to follow because of how broken up and piecemeal it is. It's just not executed well. It feels like they came up with a bunch of characters and concepts just for them to exist, but not really do much. On top of that, the game has lore, but doesn't really explore any of it in any meaningful way. Like, fundamentally, this is a time travel story with an interesting premise focusing on individuality, consciousness, entropy, and acceptance, but it's told in one of the laziest ways possible. So I just wound up not caring about it much until the end of the game, basically. Like, Zoe struggles with the impending end of the universe and multiple universes, etc., and how to deal with that and how to go forward with that, while also accepting who she is because of some spoilers that I'd rather not drop here, in case you actually want to, invest yourself in the story. But it just feels so half-assed. Now, maybe this was a time constraint or a budget constraint, I don't know. I just don't like how it's told. There should have been more actual cutscenes instead of all of the, PNG cards with the character things. Even though the character cards and portraits are awesome, that's what the story is basically told through. You have like 3 cutscenes in the game total. One at the beginning, one at the end if you don't beat the final boss. Again, spoiler, it has to do with the universe and all that stuff. Actually, it's kind of like Evangelion and JoJo Part 6 had a baby. That's the only way I can explain it. But in general, like, the concept is cool, and I really like the concept, so that's why I kept, going along and paying attention to things, but I think the execution just was not there. Haste is honestly one of the best games I've played in years, and it's one of the most unique games I've played in years. I got like a recommendation of a video about the demo, and I was like, oh, this looks cool, I kind of want to play it. Because one day a friend told me something profound that I never thought about, and they were like, hey, Shadic, I just think you like games about movement. Because they would talk to me about like different platformers, and they were like, I realized you really like Sonic over every other platformer, no matter how good those other platformers may be. And it's because I realized you just like games about movement. Look at the rest of the games you play. And I was like, dang, I think you're right. Jokes aside though, I just think Haste is a game that everybody should strive to play. I really hope this game, exits Steam and releases on other things besides PC. Not that it, leaves Steam. I hope it stays on Steam, but you know what I mean? I think it needs to be on more platforms. Like, if they could get this game on Switch 2, early, I think that would be an insane boost for this game. On top of that, I'd like to see physicals, but the way things are going in the world, I don't think that's gonna happen. But I think you should play Haste. It's an amazing game. It's like $15, 10, 15, 20 bucks on Steam, something like that. And it's honestly a really good time, especially if you want to have something that you can functionally endlessly play. It has a high skill ceiling, and that's very obvious, but I think if you're up for the challenge, you'll enjoy it. But this has been your man, Shadic Stick. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Again, we're trying to hit 500 subs. Help a brother out. He's trying to make it out here. But also, if you want to keep up to date with the channel, I make posts on the channel regularly. And also make sure to follow your boy on Twitter and Blue Sky. Also, join the Discord. Links, as always, they're down in the description. It'll help you never miss a video. Or stream, which I canceled this week's stream to record this video. Make sure I at least have the audio chopped up. But this has been your man, Shadic Stick. Remember, Hot Faraga turns to Cold Blizzaga. Chill out some more other videos. Peace and have a good one.